everyone. Thanks for joining us for another edition of Texas Insider TV, brought to you by the Texas Alliance of Energy Producers. I'm Jim Cardle. We've seen an overheated focus lately on the issue of sexual assault, and particularly this week in the media, where both Charlie O'Reilly, Matt Lauer, Garrison Keillor, and others have been fired from their very visible jobs on major networks in TV media. We're visiting today with Adriana Aldine, our Texas Insider Senior Correspondent. Adriana, thanks for joining us.
Hi, thank you I'm so glad that we can talk about these issues.
And it's a very important one, first of all, and second of all, a fascinating one of sorts because of the speed of social media these days. But you have, our listeners will be familiar with, you have experience with Telemundo, Univision, CNN, Fox News. You've been in the media for decades. You are a recognized conservative Latino expert and have had some experience, I suspect, as most women have. So let's get into some of what you think the details or the background may be. I want to start off, first of all, by asking you, in your years of experience, there is, for instance, even in the male culture in the last couple of years, I've witnessed more hugging going on, male to male. There's these changes that happen in that type of cultural norm, but yet there's a media culture and a political culture where folks shake hands or hug or interact. What have you experienced?
Well, I'm so glad that you asked this question, Jim, because in my case, I am a Latina. And in the Latina culture, there is a lot more affection during greeting time. And the affection goes beyond just a regular handshake in many cases. We actually touch more than regular people do. Mm-hmm. And we actually even greet with a kiss. And we greet with a kiss, co-host, even cameraman. We also, our host, we greet them with a kiss. And that's perfectly fine if it's with people that you already know and you have a relationship of trust. So within Latino culture is something that is acceptable if both of them have that common agreement. Now, it is true that I've been in different media outlets, and I have been the guest of many shows, and most of my experiences have always been good ones among everybody, with the host, with the producers, with the cameraman. Many times the people who are behind the cameras, they not only are in charge of the cameras, they have to wire you with the microphones, and they have to touch you for that, and they do it with certain decor and say, hey, I'm about to wire you behind your dress, is that is okay? Sometimes you have to do it yourself, sometimes you need help. And I have to say that most of the time my experience has been good. Just in a couple cases, it has been some men that have tried to hit on you, and you know how to stop it, of course. But I don't know what is to live and work in everyday basis in each one of these shows. Like, some people have to be there every day, mm-hmm. From certain time to certain time. So it's not the same as being a contributor, as giving political analysis in regular basis. Sometimes in a studio with the co-host, like we are right now, or sometimes satellite that I have to be in camera in 3. I don't have as much contact with them, but I still have a contact with someone who is behind the camera. But this is an issue that people need to talk about it, and we have heard recently Carly Fiorina mm-hmm. speaking in Fox and speaking with wisdom about that this is something that everybody knows, men and women, that happen, and the perennial abuse of men over women is a well-known subject.
Let me just mention that she was interviewed by Chris Wallace yes. over the weekend on Fox News Sunday, and she said something to the effect, have I been hit on? Of course. Has every woman been aware of the predominantly male culture in their lifetimes? Of course. We know it, it exists. But yet in this day and age, it seems like so many of the cultural norms are being turned on its head. And let me ask it this way. You have, because of your experience, worked with these male anchor hosts. What do you think a lot of these news organizations are doing now on a daily basis? We've heard that NBC had heard about the Matt Lauer allegations, had essentially sat on it for up to 3 years. Harvey Weinstein, come to find out, the media and the Hollywood industry knew for an extended period of time. What do you think the news organizations are doing now to get out ahead of the curve so they aren't exposed?
I think it's important that the directors of each station or TV show, they have these meetings and this conversation about if this is existent, they need to come now and talk about it. If they have been, sometimes maybe some of the people high in rank are involved. Only God and them know that. But I think it's important that they clean house and they realize that this is not acceptable behavior and that they need to give the confidence to those women to come forward and to speak, and that they will be listened at, and that they will take action regardless about what will be the financial consequence that they may have. Because in this case we have very prominent hosts in different channels. In this case you are talking MSNBC. I'm a conservative that is more liberal media, and not because of that I don't feel bad for the women who were affected. But we also saw it on Fox News, and we heard it with Mr. Bill O'Reilly. And I have to be honest with you, I know about Bill O'Reilly since long ago. And
really?
And certainly it was an issue that I never felt understood why people who work with him didn't came forward. But yes, this is an issue that they should. Nobody's immune, and it's interesting because we live in a world, and especially in my world, that I'm a conservative, and people may think that because someone is a candidate who is a conservative, or because someone belongs to a conservative party, or a legislator in a conservative party, or a talk show from a conservative channel like Fox, that they are immune of this, and that is not the case. Or because somebody is a liberal, then therefore we're going to think that they are more bad with women. That has not been my case. You know, I am often with Jorge Ramos in Univision, and for years, I know him for years, and I can tell you that Jorge is a gentleman. Not only he's a gentleman with every woman that I have seen, but with me, but I have never ever heard a rumor about him in regards to this.
So
they cannot say, oh, just because he's a liberal.
So it's not a partisan issue,
No,
it's not a political issue, it's not an ideological spectrum issue, but one of the amazing things that I think has kind of been lost in all the you know, salacious details that I want to get you to address is the fact that before women feared coming forward, and now in the last, since particularly the Harvey Weinstein Hollywood exposure, let's say 2 months ago, women are coming forward now and they are being believed. They don't have criminal investigations, they don't have police reports, they have nothing but their word. Talk a little bit about the dynamic where women in this day and age are now being believed, I think is a huge development.
I think they can be now more bold in speaking because they know we live in a world that there is social media. People are going to attack them too, but people are going to believe them too. And in the past, when they leave, many of these women who have talked about the past, especially those who talk about years and years ago where no social media existed, and they were victims of very powerful people, either in politics, in the community, or in the Hollywood aspect, because we need to remember Bill Cosby, the situation with Bill Cosby. It just takes one to start and say, okay, I'm going to go ahead and say it. I know that he's very powerful, but I'm going to go ahead. And they talk with attorneys or with whoever, and they decide that they come forward. Then somebody else heard, oh, somebody else came up. Then I can tell my story because now it's not just her. I will be supportive of her story. She was supportive of mine, even if they didn't know between each other. So I think that they get encouraged by doing it as soon as they hear others. But that doesn't mean that they are necessarily lying. And even I'm not saying that necessarily they are saying the truth. We heard about the lacrosse team that they were falsely accused, because everybody's going to bring that issue again. But I do believe that, yes, women believe that now that there is more justice for them, that there will be belief because there is other people who will come up, and that powerful men or women, it can happen to men too, right, that they are harassed, that they need to face the consequences of their actions, regardless when they did these actions, because I don't care that exists or not anymore the limit of time where they can be before a court or before a jury, but the truth is they still have consequences of other kind that they need to face.
Let me ask you a little bit different question. Again, folks, thanks for joining us for this edition of Texas Insider TV. We're visiting with our insider senior correspondent, Adriana Aldine, who's been involved with Univision, Telemundo, as well as CNN and Fox News. But Adriana, it was something that really caught my eye about a week ago. A liberal psychologist had a piece in the Atlantic magazine, a generally well-known liberal publication, and she was making the claim that the behavior of then President Bill Clinton has been what has led to the current situation today, where these predator types knew that they could get away with it. The covering up in the male-dominated media was well enforced. Talk about the idea that there has been, in the predominantly liberal media, the concept of if you were liberal enough and male enough and financially contributing enough or arguing for the feminist cause, your sins could be overlooked. Yes. Not anymore.
Not anymore. And certainly people have been overlooked based on that, or based on what can I get in exchange of my silence, or they are just, sometimes they even tell you better don't talk about that. I know about one case, I'm not going to mention the name and not even the situation, but it's a conservative male that is well known, and he did committed adultery, and everybody knows it, and there was a child as a product of that relationship. And to be honest with you, nobody ever want to talk about it, because what would be the consequence about that? And to be honest with you, I just feel I need to respect when women want to keep it silent. Whenever they want to speak, I'm responsible for my own actions. But I do think that with the president, with President Clinton, and specifically, yes, people overlook, and now the liberal media is attacking. And I do believe all media should condemn any type of harassment to any woman. It doesn't matter if the woman is or not of my ideological point of view or tendency or whatever. We need to respect that it should be respect and decency among co-workers at all times. So that is one of the reasons I say, well, if the media, although I have seen they are condemning some of the liberals that they have done wrong, and I personally, what I saw this morning with what we saw with MSNBC was that MSNBC, I immediately changed the channels to see what they were saying. The co-hosts were sad because they knew a man who was not represented, but several times they say, we will not allow this, and this is now the time that we need to face this, that this is happening into our own channel. So, and I think that Fox should have done the same thing about Mr. O'Reilly, and they have to do it if that happen again with other people or legislators. It doesn't matter which party they are. But hopefully everything comes to truth and to transparency, so we cannot judge just based on accusations, but we can have more evidence so people can really see the consequences.
And you probably saw Savannah Guthrie's this week on NBC. Last week it was the ladies that had sat next to Charlie Rose.
Yes.
But yet there does appear to be a whispering campaign amongst you females in the media, all across, whether it's the Latino or the English-speaking here that we've seen. What is it that suddenly changed that women are feeling? Why have they waited so long to share their experience, perhaps?
The same thing, the fear of the power that is above them because these men are more powerful. We heard the journalist who was actually, while she was sleeping, she was touched by Senator Franken before
yes.
he was a senator. It doesn't matter when he was, but she said she was afraid that no one will believe her and that she will lose her job. And now she knows she's not gonna lose her job and she's gonna be believed. That's what she said to people. That was the reason that she came forward. And apparently she have accepted the apology, right, from the senator, but other women have come forward. So that is gonna be different thing. And certainly we're listening about situations who are different, that harassment, because sometimes is some behavior that we don't think that is from a gentleman who serves in legislation. That happens too, but that is different than sexual harassment. But so everything is coming together right now.
How about from the purely female perspective? I think that in the male-dominated culture, there has been the cover-up, and this is part transferring into the political culture. Americans are sick and tired of things being swept under the rug, whether it's political problems, Republicans not standing up to Democrats enough, politicians not standing up for America in general. How about the female perspective? Do you what's your anticipation of the female reaction of all this development?
Well, we see, for one side, the liberal females who are more feminist, some of them are quiet, and I don't know why they are not condemning. They should. I'm very proud for Carly Fiorina, and here it's not important that she's a conservative or not. She's a woman who say and spoke. Every woman knows when they have gone through. And if there is a woman out there that has never been a victim or have never experienced sexual harassment, great. I'm so glad for you. If they have not experienced this, maybe it's the type of job that they have, that they don't have to fellowship with men often and in a professional way, but it does happen. And I just think that women who are liberal, some of them are upset, or they are mostly condemning the conservative men that they are involved in some sort of allegation. Some of them are being a little bit more fair and talking about both sides, and some of them continue being quiet, and there will be few that will be covering or not wanted to open up that is wrong just because they have other agenda in mind.
Like Nancy Pelosi, for instance, saying that Al Franken's allegations should not get in the way of the tax cut bill.
That is
They're
one
trying
case,
to put it off.
Like Nancy Pelosi saying that, or like a wife who wants her husband to be elected to the Senate, or like the women who rather say, but we need that seat in the Senate, and they don't care if it's true or not an accusation. And to me, it's more important integrity on behalf of men than to look for other excuses instead of believing when women have been truly victims.
Well, we're going to leave it there. Appreciate your perspective and joining
Thank
us
you.
today from your senior correspondent duties. Folks, we appreciate you joining us for this edition of Texas Insider TV with Adriana Aldine. I'm Jim Cardle. Remember, you're either an insider or you're not. We'll talk to you again soon. Thanks for joining us.